Eyes Open Network. Today is March 2nd, 2016, and it's time for a reality check. I think people need to wake up. It's the day after Super Tuesday, and people really think that there's going to be a difference when one of these two parties wins. No matter who wins the White House, the new boss is going to be exactly the same as the old boss. There's a famous quote by Hunter S. Thompson, and it goes like this. The main problem in any democracy is that crowd pleasers are generally brainless swine who can go out on stage and whoop up their supporters into an organized frenzy and then get to the office and sell every one of the poor bastards down the tube for a nickel apiece. End quote. Let's be clear. Politics today has nothing to do with Republicans or Democrats. It doesn't have to do with healthcare. It doesn't have to do with higher taxes, abortion, college tuitions, gun control. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff, or any other buzzword that these campaign slogans will come up with. But what politicians have done is they've mastered the art of telling the American people, and in the Canadian election was last year, but they mastered the art of telling the people, the taxpayers, exactly what they want to hear, so they can get the votes that they want. Happened in Canada, the big sweeping change in government, because the Trudeau's Liberals had the capacity to tell the taxpayers exactly what they wanted to hear, and he won a landslide victory. Well, here's the interesting thing. Politics has nothing, or has to do, pardon me, politics today has to do with one thing and one thing only. Maintaining the status quo between the controllers and the controlled. Who are the controllers? The controllers are the politicians, the bureaucrats, and the corporate elite. Who are the controlled? All the taxpayers. You and me. It doesn't matter, and when it comes to the U.S., it doesn't matter if Hillary wins, or Bernie wins, or Trump, or Rubio, or Cruz, or some other person coming out of left field. It doesn't matter. They're not going to save the nation. The only people who can save the nation are, quote, we the people. But yet, Americans, not unlike Canadians, are really eager to be persuaded that a new leader can solve all the problems of a nation. It's very, very interesting. It doesn't actually matter what you call the controllers. You can call them the 1%, you can call them the elite, the controllers, the masterminds, the shadow government, the police state, the surveillance state, the military-industrial complex, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't matter what party is going to occupy the White House in 2017. The unelected bureaucracy that actually calls the shots will continue to do so. Now, here we are. We sit here, and you may not even be watching anymore because you think, oh, this guy's crazy. He's off on half-cocked and talking about conspiracy theories and shadow governments and all this other. Hey, Eyes Open Network, we're here to give you something to think about and an opportunity to open your eyes. I'm going to read off a number of facts. You can do with them what you will, but keep in mind that they are facts. And to remind you, I'll open like this. Fact. According to the scientific study done by Princeton researchers, the United States of America is not the democracy that it purports to be, but rather an oligarchy, in which economic elites and organized groups representing business interests have substantial independent impacts on the U.S. government policy. Fact. Despite the fact that number of violent crimes in the country is down substantially, the lowest rate in 40 years, the number of Americans being jailed for non-violent crimes, such as driving with a suspended license, is skyrocketing. Fact. Thanks to an overabundance of 4,500 plus federal crimes and 400,000 plus rules and regulations, it's estimated that the average American actually commits 3 felonies a day without knowing it. In fact, according to a law professor, John Baker, quote, there is no one in the United States over the age of 18 who cannot be indicted for some federal crime. That is not an exaggeration, end quote. Fact. Despite the fact that we have 46 million Americans living at or below the poverty line, 16 million children living in households without adequate access to food, and at least 900,000 veterans relying on food stamps, enormous sums of taxpayer money continue to be doled out for presidential vacations, $16 million for trips to Africa and Hawaii. Overtime fraud at the Department of Homeland Security, nearly $9 million in improper overtime claims, and that's just the 6 of the Department of Homeland Security main offices. And Hollywood movie productions, $10 million in taxpayer money was spent by the Army National Guard on Superman movie tie-ins aimed at increasing awareness about the National Guard. Fact, since 2001, Americans have spent $10.5 million every hour for numerous foreign military occupations, including in Iraq and Afghanistan. There's also the $2.2 million spent every hour on maintaining the United States nuclear stockpile, and $35,000 spent every hour to produce and maintain our collection of Tomahawk missiles. And then there's the money the government exports to other countries to support their arsenals, at the cost of $1.61 million every hour for the American taxpayers. Fact, it is estimated that 2.7 million children in the United States have at least one parent in prison, whether it be a local jail or a state or federal penitentiary, due to a wide range of factors ranging from overcriminalization and surprise raids at family homes on roadside traffic stops. Fact, according to a Gallup poll, Americans place greater faith in the military and the police than they do any of the 3 branches of government. Fact, today 17,000 local police forces are equipped with such military equipment as Black Hawk helicopters, machine guns, grenade launchers, battering rams, explosives, chemical sprays, body armor, night vision, rappelling gear, and armored vehicles, reports Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. Some have tanks. Fact, police officers are more likely to be struck by lightning than made financially liable for their wrongdoing. Fact, on an average day in America, over 100 Americans have their homes raided by SWAT teams. Most of those SWAT team raids are for mere warrant service. There has been a notable buildup in recent years of heavily armed SWAT teams within non-security related federal agencies such as the Department of Agriculture, the Railroad Retirement Board, and the Tennessee Valley Authority, the Office of Personnel Management, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Education Department. Fact, the FBI's Next Generation Identification Facial Recognition System, which is set to hold data on millions of Americans, will include a variety of biometric data, including palm prints, iris scans, face recognition data, and the NGI will be capable of uploading 55,000 images a day and conducting tens of thousands of photo searches daily. Fact, comprising an $82 billion industry, at least 30,000 drones are expected to occupy U.S. airspace by 2020. Fact, everything we do will eventually be connected to the internet. By 2030, it is estimated there will be 100 trillion sensor devices connecting human electronic devices, cell phones and laptops, etc., to the internet. Much, if not all, of our electronic devices will be connected to Google, which openly works with government intelligence agencies. Virtually everything we do now, no matter how innocent, is being collected by the spying American police state. Fact, Americans know virtually nothing about the history and how their government works. In fact, according to a study by the National Constitution Center, 41% of Americans are not aware that there are 3 branches of government, and 62% couldn't name them. 33% couldn't even name one. Fact, only 6 out of every 100 Americans know that they actually have a constitutional right to hold the government accountable for wrongdoing, as guaranteed by the right to petition clause of the First Amendment. There you have it, folks. Plenty of facts that you are not in control, and whoever owns the office after the U.S. election is not going to have control either. Perhaps the most troubling fact in all of this is we handed over control of our government and our lives to faceless bureaucrats who view us as little more than cattle to be bred, branded, butchered, and sold for profit. If we have any hope of restoring our freedoms, reclaiming any control of our government, it will rest not with the politicians, but the people themselves. When all is said and done, each American can decide for themselves whether they prefer dangerous freedom or peaceful slavery. There's one thing for sure. This ritual of voting is not going to advance freedom. John F. Kennedy once said, "There is a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman, and child. Before I leave this high office and noble office, I intend to expose the plot." He said that 7 days before his assassination. You do the math, folks. Eyes Open Network.